Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
And I declare the winner of the 2021 Brownlow medal is Ollie Wines of the Port Adelaide Football Club.
I'm a little bit rattled, to be honest, still. There's so many great players that I still look up to at my age, and they've had tremendous seasons, and a lot of them are obviously playing on Saturday in the biggest game of the year, and I'm extremely envious of them. And I think more than anything, this is a football club award. It doesn't take an individual, it takes a team, a football club, not just a football department, the admin staff, everyone to get someone to this point.
7 minutes past 6. Hello, welcome along to Sports Day as we begin the build-up to the final game of the year, the historic Perth Grand Final in 2021. Last night, of course, Ollie Wines beat an impressive array of talent to win the 2021 Brownlow medal, and he joins us later on in the evening. Sam McClure, who won the media version of the Brownlow medal, he'll also join us from Perth with the latest and, of course, some breaking news on the Carlton coaching position before Matthew Lloyd, who thinks he was robbed of 4 Brownlow medals, gets stuck into the preview of the big game ahead. So it's finally arrived grand final week, and we can get on with what's shaping up as a battle of the bounce between the Demons and the Dogs. If the Dogs can win the clearance significantly as they did just a few weeks ago, they can win the flag. If the Demons can break even or better at clearance, or their all-over game, including the best defence in the history of the game, will see them prevail for their first flag in 57 years. During the week, of course, we'll have the usual suspects, the team that includes the man who wrote the formula for winning premierships in the great Lee Matthews. Richo, the all-time great from Richmond, he'll be with us, as always, with his thoughts on Wednesday night. And along the way, Paul Roos, so instrumental in what's unfolding at the moment for Melbourne. Tommy Liberatore, a Brownlow medal great of the Bulldogs and father of Tom. Todd Viney, a best and fairest and team of the century winner for Melbourne and father of Jack. Doug Hawkins has his own wing. Brad Johnson, legend of the game. And, of course, the Dogs. To name a few, they'll join us right throughout the week. So if you're craving the grand final build-up after the silly week off, you'll get it here on Sports Day, including Friday night scoop as I welcome you with the bad news. Yes, you're working on Dan's grand final holiday, even though you're in Perth. Welcome to you. What's making noise in the city on the West Coast?
Hello, Jared. I would expect nothing less. What do you mean to my disappointment? What else would I rather be doing on Friday than talking to you about
a lot of functions going on over there in Perth, I'm told, of which
doesn't mean
you're
can't
just
multitask.
starting to get yourself involved.
Just starting to pull the shoulders back, and the Brownlow medal was a great event last night. It was an interesting event. It was great to see so many notable locals there. I thought Ollie Wines, who we're going to speak to a little bit later, spoke superbly, Jared.
Yep.
And, I think given everything that's been going on in this country of ours, it was a credit to the AFL to put on the function that they did. And I thought Channel 7, given what they had to deal with, doing so many broadcasts in different places, did really well.
So let's move on. Some news coming out of Tigerland.
Yeah, some news coming out of Tigerland that's actually coming out of Carlton land as well, and that is, it just doesn't feel like the dust has settled from David Teague being sacked as Carlton coach, but he's now joining Damien Hardwick as one of his assistants at Tigerland down at Punt Road. So, this has happened a few times before with Carlton sacked coaches. They end up being pretty successful assistant coaches elsewhere, and David Teague has found himself to Punt Road as the Blues. It sounds like, Jared, are narrowing closer to their replacement.
Well, Tom Morris went early today saying Michael Voss set to be Blues coach. Only Clarko backflip stands in his way. The Herald Sun followed up with Glenn McFarlane and John Rell saying only Clarko can stop Voss. So is Clarko the man? Sorry, is Voss the man?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Jared. Far be it for me to be a journalist that goes after denial yarns. That's not me. And Tom's got a really good record when it comes to going with this stuff. I don't think I think there are other people that could potentially do it. I wouldn't rule out Alistair Clarkson. I also wouldn't rule out Chris Scott, and I wouldn't rule out Adam Kingsley. But if you were to sit me down right now, Jared, and ask me who do I think is Carlton's favoured person for the job, I would say it's probably Michael Voss.
Okie doke. Well, a man who played in a couple of premierships, he's ready to go. Let's bring him in. Welcome to you, Lloydie. You've been here a number of times in grand final weekend. From a player's perspective, what would they be feeling right now?
It's the best, Jared. It's the best feeling you can imagine. I'll never forget going to Windy Hill, and there was 10,000 people filling the grandstands. The lessons you get taught in your first one around grand final tickets and the phone call and all that with your phone, and the stress of not sleeping. I wasn't sleeping too well, and John Quinn used to say, just calm down. Even if you just got closing your eyes in your bed, that's all that matters. Just get your rest and don't play the game in your head, all those sorts of things. So, but the build-up, it's what you play footy for, and it's a team that can settle first often wins. It's
going to be a real challenge. This is why I think it's the great unknown, because who copes best with the bye week is probably going to be evident early in the game.
You're right, and I've been looking at the Demons' starts in two finals, and they've been 5 goals up at quarter time in 2 finals, and they've blown teams away, and with their all-round pressure game. So the Bulldogs that can match that, they did that to Port Adelaide on the flip side. So I just can't see this being a blowout, because they're two hardened sides that played good tough footy like they've played right throughout the final series.
So if it is a battle of the bounce around the stoppage initially, and Melbourne's been, they kicked 101 points, the most ever in a final last week or 2 weeks ago against Port Adelaide. They were absolutely dominant. Sorry, it wasn't against Port Adelaide in their prelim final. Geelong. Who wins if it's square through the middle of the ground?
It's a great question. I think the Dogs have more, have a deeper midfield. Like it looks there, but I think we've got to respect Langdon and Brayshaw and Harms for the roles they play. But I just seem to like Melbourne's better. It just seems like Max Gawn is obviously a huge factor in it. Petrarca and Oliver, can't remember the last bad game that any of them have played. I think Viney, Sam, is getting better. So even though the Dogs, I think Treloar and Dunkley are like number 6 and 7. Yeah. Which they could be number 2 and 3 at other clubs, but they're 6 and 7. But I just think the Demons gel so well around Max Gawn, whereas you've got Steph Martin. I reckon he'll feel like he had a truck go through him last week because it's his first game back in a long time, and then you got English. So I like the Demons midfield.
So does Jack Viney go to who? And probably Dunkley's been their tagger in recent times. Who does he go to, if anybody?
Well, what Goody has to make a decision on is, I thought when Harms took Libba out of it, they weren't ready for it in the first win in round 11, Liberatore. But then the next time around, Harms was playing half forward by that stage, and Libba had 27 disposals. So if I'm a Melbourne fan, I'd be much more comfortable having James Harms running with Libba and terrorising Libba. But they don't want to, Sam, upset the apple cart, because Viney had 34, Oliver and Petrarca dominated. So
could Harms go to a Bailey Dale, because he's been playing that high half forward role?
Yeah, and I'm thinking what happens with Bailey Smith, which they wouldn't send. I was just had myself thinking, which they wouldn't do in a grand final. Could they send obviously Harms in to go after Libba, shut down the clearance, and could Viney spend some time out, really making life difficult for Bailey Smith? Okay. But I'm not sure he has the running capabilities to match Bailey Smith, Sam.
So that's what I actually wanted to ask you and Jared, Lloydie. Jake Niall, Jared, who you know I'm living with and who's typing feverishly next to me, he's working on a Brownlow column, and sorry if I'm saying this before you actually print it, Jake, talking about the count last night and the amount of votes that everyone got, particularly in the top 5, and the theory that, no one really tags anymore. When you were playing, Lloydie, there would have been guys that had 21, 22 votes win it. And maybe similar to when you won it, Jared, I'm not sure how many votes you had. But is anyone actually got the guts in this grand final, do you think, to go from the tag from the first bounce instead of waiting for damage to be done? Because it's very rarely done now.
Well, Harms did it in about round 5. He went to Libba, and it was the first... Round 11. Yeah. He did it.
Was that from the first bounce?
It was from the first bounce. Yep. It was a real surprise. And a number of sides, I guess, followed. But Harms has been pushed out of the midfield. Yes. Viney's come in. He's running that role at the present time. But just on the Jake theory, I think that's... If you've got to ask yourself, how come the midfielders... I was talking to Lee Matthews about this only an hour or so ago. How come the mids are all getting 30-plus votes? Well, clearly, possession rate has gone through the roof, and there's no hard tags. So that your best mids are getting, I mean, we talk about they're getting 35 possessions as if.
And less rotations, Jared, do you think? So they're spending more time in there?
Possibly. I wouldn't.
Well, that's probably possession rate
yeah.
to your first point, yep.
But the possession of 35 is less than 10% of what your average is, whereas 35 in, say, the mid-90s was 10% of 300, or it was probably a 12% of 35 was 12% of possession. So, without the tag, your 35 game or your 30 game is a good game. It's not a great game like it was with a hard tag.
That's why I love Daniel Kerr when he played. He often didn't get the amount that Cousins potentially got, or Judd in his prime, the value of their disposals. And my top 7 later is going to be around the players that weren't valued enough by the umpires.
He's promoting the top 7 early,
and one of the players in it, Sam.
Have you ever been in your own top 7?
What's that? 15 was my best Brownlow year, Jared. Geez, I was stiff that year. But anyway, I reckon Sam Taylor that night at July, when he dominated Hawkins,
didn't get one vote.
I looked at who they gave the votes to, and it was Isaac Cumming had 34 touches. He got in the votes. Whitfield got, I think, 34 touches. He got 1. Cumming got 34 votes, he got 2, and Taranto got 34 touches. So the 3 blokes with 34 all got the 3-2-1 versus a bloke who beat Hawkins, took 12 marks, had 21 touches. So,
but they don't look at stats, though. They don't look at stats. So it shouldn't necessarily be like that.
Are you being sarcastic by that, or Sam? Or?
No, I'm not.
I'm sure
umpires don't get
it.
They absolutely don't get access to stats.
They only know the free kick number because it always equilibrates after half time.
So they can't check their phone and look at the numbers on the AFL app, no?
No, they're not allowed to. So, look, I thought the umpires, barring a couple of games like that, Lloydie and Jared, I don't know what you thought, Jared. I thought they had a pretty good night last night.
Yeah, well, I think that there's always going to be the odd blemish. I think the two, there was a couple of really big defending positions, like the one you said, that were clear bloopers, but, it's impossible to look and walk in their shoes.
It is. And but on Ollie Wines, I just wanted to say on Ollie that I was able to go on an AIS Academy trip with Ollie when he was 17, and there was some behaviour by some boys that wasn't great. And Mickey O'Loughlin was making the boys get up and do push-ups, sit-ups all morning, and Ollie Wines and Jack Viney were ruthless in the point that they wanted these kids sent home, and they were not tolerant of poor behaviour or blokes who were lacklustre in their efforts. And I thought to myself that day, and both of those boys will be captained. Yeah, it's amazing that they've both become captains and lost the captaincy. So I just wonder with Ollie Wines, could he be the first player ever to lose the captaincy? I'm not sure. I'd probably miss some. But
gets
it back.
Yeah.
Because I'd run out behind Wines before Jonas. I know it's harsh because you're not there.
Yeah.
But I just wonder whether Tommy could focus more on his footy now, and Wines is in the perfect space of his career to captain that club again.
Something that we can ask to the man of the moment who joins us later in the show. More coming up on Sports Day with Matthew Lloyd.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy. Matthew Lloyd for the Macca's Monopoly game. Peel and scan to win today. Ends 19th October 2021.
I think it's pretty clear that he didn't rate me, which is fine. That's what I said. It's hard to change opinions of coaches, and that's footy. So I'm not holding that against anyone. But as I said, I think I just need a fresh start and a bit more, clean slate, and I'll sort of find a bit more motivation.
That was pretty candid. Welcome back to Sports Day. Pretty candid Luke Dunstan, Jared, speaking to you and I earlier for the show's podcast. He polled 11 votes last night, Lloydie. Second only at St Kilda to Jack Steele, and yet at 26 finds himself delisted.
Well, we saw what happened with Jared Lyons not so many years ago, and hopefully Luke Dunstan can be the next Jared Lyons for his future club. So, he knows how to find the footy. I thought he started to use it better, Jared. And I heard Ratton on radio last week saying he favoured Jack Bytel, a youngster, over him, and wanted to give those opportunities to him.
Yeah, and I don't blame Rats. Yeah. I mean, you look at the group, I don't think it's the fact that you're not rated, but you're just too far down the list. And you look at the list, they got Crouch, Steele, Hunter Clark, Hanbury, Seb Ross and Bytel. They need speed in there.
Yep.
And I look at somebody like maybe the Bombers, who have got two really good young midfielders in Merritt and Darcy Parish, both brilliant last night. But you saw them side by side. They're not big bodies. The package goes in there. Stringer goes in. He goes forward. So he's not your general midfielder. And some of the footy I saw Dunstan play this week, if I'm the Bombers, I'm at least asking the question.
Yeah, you get him for nothing, don't you, Sam? So it's going to be interesting to see.
That's right, delisted free agent.
Yeah, and whether he's got options. Everyone thinks of the Gold Coast Suns, that how it could be good for them, but he may want to have an option to be at a top side vying for finals next year.
The Bulldogs, Jared and Lloydie, have some options. They've started to make a bit more noise here in Perth because they got out of quarantine yesterday. A lot of talk about the Demons team and, if they bring in Hunt to be maybe a sub. What about the Dogs? All the talk is that Gardner's probably going to be the unlucky one for Keith. Waitman comes in. If Vandermeer's fit, Jared and Lloydie, does he still miss out, or do they find someone else?
I'd play Vandermeer over Anthony Scott. So if it would be Waitman for Scott for me.
And JJ the sub?
And JJ or Vandermeer the sub. I'd nearly go Vandermeer the sub and give JJ the opportunity. But and then the other one, I just presume that Keith would come in for Cordy because Gardner. I think Beveridge is a massive fan of Gardner. That's how I thought it would fall, Sam. Yeah.
Track watchers over here are telling me that they think Cordy will keep his spot. Now, I'm not saying that's absolutely going to happen, but it's clearly a discussion point. Well, that maybe the matchups look better.
Yeah, and it could be a discussion that he could go back or forward, potentially with Lever and May to try and stretch them and occupy them. That's what the role Shackey will play. So maybe the versatility of Cordy could get him over the line.
It's hard to see Simon Goodwin making a change. I mean, I know the potential is there for Jaden Hunt to come in. But he's been so solid on stability, and he's been so solid on if you're not in the side and the side goes well and you go well, it's your spot. If you miss and you're one of half a dozen, I mean, clearly if Max misses, he goes straight back in. But if you're down at the bottom of the pecking order, they haven't made unforced changes, I don't think, for a fair period of time.
No, and the risk is that a guy like Jaden Hunt, it's probably 50, I don't know how many days it's been since he played. So I think that's where Jordan will hold his spot. He's been a sub a lot of the times, but he's played every game. So, I'm with you, Jared. I don't think they make any changes going into this Melbourne.
Luke Jackson all of a sudden becomes this super important player, doesn't he? Because Max can go forward, or if there's an injury, they have got this young kid who 18 months ago looked like he was going to take a few years, and then all of a sudden this year, he just got better and better and better before our eyes.
I've been a little critical of Gawn in the past, where as good as he's been, that he's been to me a centre-back ruckman.
Yep.
But now Luke Jackson's come into it. You see him standing at the top of the square in a prelim, and taking marks and kicking 4 1/4. I know some of them came from the midfield, but that's what Jackson's allowing him to do. And how good's it going to be? Maybe English versus Jackson at times in the centre bounce. Probably two of the biggest potential stars going forward, Sam, over the next 10 years, going at it in the grand final. Yeah,
they're still having a reasonable crack at him, Jared, by the way. It sounds like the Dockers over here, from what all the locals are saying and all the local track watchers, that Luke Jackson is still very much a person of interest. I mean, there's just no way that Melbourne would give him up for anything.
I think he's going to be a person of interest for about 10 years. The way he's performing, if he becomes a Melbourne Premiership player, I tell you what, you'd need a Matic to get him out of Melbourne, I would have thought.
Sam, what did you make of the Robbie Tarrant move to Richmond?
Interesting.
Do you see that as North messing him around and he says, I'm leaving, or a player who says, if I'm any chance of success, I've just got to take this and go to Richmond now, potentially with a year left to have a crack at it?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. Yeah. I mean, they were clearly looking at Daniel Talia. I think that they've asked the question around Phil Davis, who's got a really weird situation surrounding his supposed contract at GWS. We're trying to work that one out. But clearly they've arrived on Tarrant. They needed some help down back. I still think... Sorry, go on, Gerald.
Well, it's a big pickup. I mean, Robbie Tarrant is one of the best defenders the game has seen for a decade. He's been playing in one of the worst sides of the last decade, so he hasn't been sort of carried along with momentum. But if you wanted to pick up a bloke, even at his age, and stick him into a potential premiership side, I think he's a fair way ahead of the other two.
Do you think that Richmond are a genuine chance at winning the flag next year?
Oh, I do, yeah. Why wouldn't they be? I mean, they had a poor year. They were entitled to have a poor year. Dusty had an average year by his own standards. You started brilliantly. We were reminded that last night. But I thought they dropped right off in various areas. They probably lost a little bit of hunger, got some injuries, lost a bit of focus, but nothing will sharpen them up more than missing out on finals like this. And I think there's at least another crack left in that group.
More with Matthew Lloyd, who's brought to us from McDonald's coming up. He's going to do his top 7. The players that played well but didn't poll strongly is Lloyd's top 7. I'm assuming number 1 is just going to be Matthew Lloyd, although I have to find his Brownlow stats before we get to it.
This is current players, Sam.
Okay. Ollie Wines, the Brownlow medalist, is going to join us coming up on Sports Day.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
Welcome back to Sports Day. More with Matthew Lloyd coming up very shortly. But first, it's time for news headlines with Kiara Parker. It's all thanks to Polaris.
Making news today, the riot squad had to be called in to break up an illegal gathering outside Melbourne CFMEU headquarters this afternoon as protesters turned violent. Hundreds of construction workers set out to voice their anger over a new vaccine mandate. Flares were set off, windows smashed and bottles thrown as tensions flared. It's understood crisis talks are going on with the state government tonight, with an industry shutdown not off the table. Premier Daniel Andrews says while the roadmap out of lockdown may have to be paused, the plan to reopen can also be brought forward, with a plan based on modelling which can change. Victoria's Delta outbreak has hit a new daily high of 567 cases, with the majority of new infections in Melbourne's northern suburbs. Victoria will receive 300,000 doses of the Moderna vaccine this month, with 440 pharmacies to receive the first delivery this week. And the Prime Minister is on his way to the US, where a meeting with President Joe Biden is the first key item on his agenda. Scott Morrison will also hold security talks with Japan and India. More in the news at 7.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy. The range has now landed.
Welcome back to Sports Day. It's become so big, Jared Lloyd's top 7, that it's found itself a new spot higher up the program.
Yeah, well, the Brownlow medalist has been pushed back, so Lloydie can have his top 7.
This
so
is
that's
quite extraordinary.
That's how
Ollie
big it's
Wines
been.
has been made to sit there waiting.
Yep. He's happy to do it because he just wants to make sure that he's not in the list. Well, clearly he can't be. The top 7 players, Lloydie, that played well but didn't poll strongly enough last night.
Yeah, I thought just lacked a bit of, not respect, but the umpires certainly missed their performances this year. So number 7, I've got the package, Jake Stringer. Yes, he finished far stronger than he started, but I still thought he was worthy of more than 8 votes in the Brownlow, Jared.
Do you think the All-Australian selectors have been justified in leaving him out?
Yeah, I'm fine he wasn't in that side,
Okay.
but he was certainly knocking on the door. Number 6, I'm a massive fan of Tom Hawkins. And when you kick over 50, but you get 6 Brownlow votes, I think, again, too much is around disposal. So if I'd say Cameron Guthrie, Tom Hawkins, yeah, they had even years, but one gets a lot more votes than the other.
I would have thought Tom had a much better year than Guthrie, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think Tom sets up so many other goals, you just can't judge him by his goal count.
This man, Jared, won the West Coast Eagles best and fairest, Nick Natanui, yet he got 5 votes. So he's my number 5. Yep, deserves more for the influence he has on the game.
Yep.
At number 4, Tommy Papley. So when you're a small forward mid and you're kicking around that 40-goal mark,
Good effort.
it's a great effort. So
Probably didn't celebrate enough, Lloydie.
that's him. Some will be surprised by this one. Charlie Cameron. I thought Charlie deserved more than 1 vote.
Yeah.
So he's when he kicks 50 plus, I thought he was very, very unlucky. I've got Tom Stewart, who from in number 2 from the Cats, 8 votes. And there was a game on a Friday night v the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, that was one of the best games I've seen a defender
Yes,
play.
and he didn't get any votes. So I thought, again, that one sort of surprised me. And I can't wait to watch number 1, Christian Salem, on grand final day because he's a brilliant player.
Yeah.
He just
How many
never
votes did he
takes
get last night,
one,
Louis?
Sam.
Oh,
One
jeez.
Brownlow vote for the halfback flanker, who was, I think he was All-Australian, wasn't he? Christian Salem. I'll check that. But, outstanding season, outstanding final series, and got 1 vote.
Yes, he's got a few in front of him, though, unfortunately, for Christian, doesn't he? I mean, it doesn't mean he hasn't played well, but you can be 4th behind Oliver, Petrarca and Gawn and still be a hell of a player, but miss out. What are they going to do with Christian Salem, the Dogs? Or what's Christian Salem going to do if the Dogs roll their high half forwards up? Are they going to have 2 high half forwards? If Treloar and Bailey-Smith try and pull their half back line apart, what do they do?
It's a good question, Jared. I saw in round 11 that Lever was the one that the moment they rolled someone up, Lever said, okay, I'll just go plonk myself in the hole.
So players drop off?
Player drops off, and often they'll try and manoeuvre it, and Salem will pick someone up to allow for Lever to be that loose player. So the cat and mouse games will be brilliant to watch, Sam.
Well, he's been waiting a long time, the Brownlow medalist. He's probably been up for the best part of the day as well, so he wants to get some sleep. He's got the medal around his neck. Ollie Wines is going to join us live on Sports Day next.
Sports Day for Kia. The new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 2021. That's Red Energy.
Welcome back to Sports Day. Sam McClure, Jared Healy and Matthew Lloyd with you. We're here for Red Energy and the new Kia Niro, the electric SUV range, which has now landed. 2 things I really enjoyed about the speech of Ollie Wines last night in the room there, Jared and Lloydie. One was that he arrived up to the stage with a pint of beer and not a glass of champagne. I thought that was a nice deviation. If you win the Brownlow medal, you should be able to pick your drink, not just get the champagne. And the second one was that part of his speech was written on the back of a name card for the table, written by Chris Davies. He's head of footy. I just thought that was worth noting, Jared. That's all.
Well, and I think Chris start writing that at about round 16, 17 when he thought, geez, Ollie's going to win here. We should prepare him with a few sponsors.
And then suddenly the Bont kicked away a little bit further.
Whatever it was,
he might not get there.
Whoever wrote it, I'm not sure, but I know what, he delivered it magnificently. He joins us on the line. Welcome to you, Ollie. A brilliant night. You spoke magnificently. You're a great ambassador for your club, but congratulations on a unbelievably good season. Well done.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, no, much appreciated. It's still yet to soak in, really. It's going to take a number of weeks, probably months to really sink in, but very humbled by it.
Can I ask you, Ollie, to take us through the night's proceedings? You won the award, you got up with Basil, you had the long interview, and then you would have gone and met the press and done a press conference of some sorts. Tell us what happened once you were off camera and what sort of night you had, where you went, who you went with, etc.
Yeah, no, we had a good celebration once everything was done. Everyone sort of waiting for me to get back up, and we got a heap of photos once I returned to the room with all the guys, and that was really good. And then we kicked on to a bit of an after party. There's a few sore heads floating around today. The good thing about flying back to Adelaide today, it's already 6:15, so we're nearly into bed. Thankful for that. But no, we had a good night. There was a few guys on the dance floor, and I think we were the last ones at the after party. So yeah, we celebrated well.
I thought when it was announced that you were the inaugural winner of Port Adelaide for the Brownlow medal, it just struck me what an amazing moment in history this was. And here it is. I mean, I may have this wrong, but there was some suggestion that you may not have been at the club a couple of years ago, but you dug in and you've just got better and better as a player. And now you're the first bloke ever in a footy club to win the Brownlow. That's an amazing achievement in history.
Yeah, certainly, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of. My club has got such a rich history, and to be the first to win the Brownlow medal for it and be amongst some of the names that have had individual awards at the club, it's really honouring, and that's probably the one thing that will sink in over time. But yeah, I'm incredibly proud.
Ollie, congratulations. Speaking of being proud, like your mum and your dad, I've heard them on the radio today, and also I saw the vision of, I think it might have been your sister or your brother. What about that? Like, has there been a message from a junior coach or something that your mum or your dad said that you go, okay, it's been a long journey to get to this point where I've been crowned the number one player at AFL level?
Yeah, they ride the emotions as much as everyone and as much as myself. Particularly back in Victoria, for them over the last 18 months, their highlights of their weeks has been watching Port and watching me and listening to all the team news and everything like that and asking me all the questions because they needed an outlet and to see how happy they were last night. And that video of my two sisters and brother jumping up and down in Melbourne, I almost shed a tear looking at it. They make so many sacrifices throughout their life, not just now, but when I'm a kid and when they're kids. So, it's a special award for our family.
So who was the biggest pest on your table and who was the best in regards to helping settle you down?
Boki's the settler. Boki's very level-headed. Yeah. Obviously the mature one on the table. Probably the bit of a pest is Tommy Jonas, the captain. So I don't know how he's got that trait being an AFL captain, but he was egging the boys on. But we had a lot of fun on the table. We travelled over in a big group of 10 on our table, so the boys made it a special night.
Hey, Ollie, can I ask you, watching the count last night, it was pretty obvious just the sheer amount of votes. I mean, you've polled 36, the same what Dusty did. Sam Walsh has broken equalled the club record at Carlton and not even finished on the podium. Do you have a theory as to why people are polling more the more modern the game gets?
No, I'm not too sure. Look, I think everyone knows that the Brownlows most likely going to be won by a midfielder because they're around the ball the most and they're probably noticed the most. But
and they're the most important players, aren't they, Ollie? They're more important than the key forwards like Lloyd.
Well, that's definitely what we say. But I'm not sure of the high vote trend. Obviously, it was an exciting count and it created some atmosphere in the room and I dare say in lounge rooms all over Australia. And I think the more counts you can have like that, the more exciting they are.
So let's get down to business. That's the Brownlow medal done. We move on to next year, and you'll be desperately trying to go one step better than you did, or maybe even two steps better than you did. Have you rationalised in your own mind what happened on prelim final night?
Oh, not 100% yet. I'm starting to get my head around it a little bit. In the last week, we've sort of still remained a little bit numb after the game. We're pretty shell-shocked and still searching for answers a little bit. On the night, we had no excuses. We were fully fit, 22 best available, and we didn't turn up. So I think there's talk of looking at it over the next couple of weeks and pinpointing something before we break up and set some goals because we know we're a great team, we're a great footy club, and we want to take that next step and next step after that to win a premiership. Did
you change your training? Do you think it's possible that you were looking forward rather than staying in the moment?
Oh, you've always got to look at those things. I think in a loss like that, you can't take anything off the table. So perhaps there was a moment of complacency or something like that. Perhaps there wasn't. I think in a loss like that, where you lose a preliminary final, we've got no excuses on the table by 70 points. Nothing's off the table.
Yeah.
So, we'll pinpoint it and we'll try to improve and keep getting better.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether you need to necessarily put it under the complacency banner, but sometimes I reckon clubs are so desperate to relax, or some people are so desperate to relax. You got to relax. Sometimes maybe you relax too far and you lose the edge. But nevertheless, you'll probably never really know. But tell us about Michael Voss. His name is now linked with the Carlton Football Club. You have been with Vossi for a long period of time. He would have had a direct influence on your career, I'm sure. Is he ready again to make the step?
Yeah, I believe he is. He's a super motivator, Vossi. He's strengthened our football group's resilience and connection over the last 2 years to a point where I think we're the strongest and most connected playing group in the league. Obviously, a little bit biased there, and I don't get a view of the other teams, but the amount of work he's put in that area and developing us as people and as footballers sort of away from the skill and game part of it is massive, and I'd love to see him get another opportunity. I think the more coaches and senior assistants that our club can create, the better for our program.
Ollie, you were cleaned up by Melbourne at the Adelaide Oval, and you're also cleaned in the home and away series, but you're cleaned up by the Dogs in last week's prelim. Whose best is best in your opinion?
Look, I think Western Bulldogs' best is best. I think they've got so many avenues to score. Their midfield is run so deep. Obviously, Melbourne has got sort of the big three in Gawn, Oliver and Petrarca, but I think the amount of guys that can go through the Western Bulldogs midfield now that they're up and running and all fit is not like nothing we've seen before. So I think it's going to be an incredibly tight match. I'd probably have to go towards Melbourne at this stage, but I think Bulldogs can easily win it.
Ollie, just before we let you go, I promise I'm not being sarcastic when I ask this. The incident a few years ago when you injured yourself wakeboarding, you were criticised, I thought, wrongly for living your life. But now that you're a bit older, a bit more experienced, a Brownlow medalist, do you have to be more careful with that sort of stuff? Like, would you jump on the back of a wakeboard again in the off-season coming up?
No, I won't jump on a wakeboard. I have learnt from that. There is a point you can push it to, but at the same time, I'm paid to be a professional footballer, and I can't put that in jeopardy. Ken's really good at having a sort of a football-life balance, and if you're competent at doing things, you can go do it if you get enjoyment out of it. So I sort of pretty low-key at the moment. I have a ski, I have a wake surf, but in terms of trying too many tricks on the wakeboard, I've put that away for a while.
And Ollie, I said earlier that I would love to see you captain Port Adelaide again. And that must have really hurt you when that was taken from you, because I said I've seen you as a junior footballer and what you stand for. You set standards. I know Tom Jonas is your captain, but at some point would you like to be the captain of Port Adelaide again?
Yeah, I think if that position comes available down the track, if I'm the right person for the job, I'm more than happy to. When I stepped down and Jonah went sole captain, I was more than happy to buy into that. He was the right man for the job, and I want to win the premiership as much as anyone. So that was what we needed to do then to get to that point. We're not there yet, but whatever the club needs me to do, I want to do.
Ollie, congratulations. An unbelievable night for you. Justly deserved. Enjoy the off-season. Thanks for your time. Ollie Wines, Brownlow medalist 2021.
For Kia, the new Kia Niro electric SUV range has landed. And Red Energy, awarded CanStar's most trusted energy retailer nationally for 20...